Hey folks, it's Rob again, and I'm back with another episode of my YouTube series, Unboxed, where I open and unbox albums with my machete. In this episode, I'm opening and unboxing the 1979 release by Fleetwood Mac, Tusk. It's said to be one of the most commercial flops in music history, but is it really? You're gonna hear all about it, right? And now. Welcome to Unboxed. Listen, if you like music-related content, getting a bit more in-depth and talking about various music-related projects, then you're going to want to subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications and leave a comment. Look, I do this just for the shits and gigs of it all, but I do appreciate any feedback and hope you take something away from my content. Hey, I get it. You might be watching this and wondering how I go from unboxing and discussing from hardcore rap, rock, and now this Fleetwood Mac album. Pick a fucking lane, am I right? It's simple. This album is one of the most expensive albums recorded and released, and it's said to be a flop, but is it really? We're gonna discuss that. We're gonna find out. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna have some dialogue about it, okay? You know, at the time, it rang in at about $1.7 million to record this album, which equivalates to about $6 million by today's standards, yet was arguably considered a commercial failure. Now, the recording sessions for Tusk were fueled by cocaine, champagne, and beer, which should have been the name of the album, in my opinion. Oh, and it was also fueled by a lot of sex. So yes, I have to discuss this pig at some point. Now, before we dig into this album, a little background on the band, which I didn't know myself. I learned a lot in researching this album, because I'm pretty much aware of two Fleetwood Mac albums, of course, one being Rumours and the second one being Tusk, this album here. And then of course their greatest hits, but it is what it is. But did you know this? Tusk was Fleetwood Mac's 12th album. What? I didn't know. That definitely qualifies as a plethora of albums.
What is a plethora?
So the band Fleetwood Mac has really taken a lot of shapes along the way in releasing those 12 albums. But I'm just going to focus on this Rumours Tusk era of Fleetwood Mac, which is the era that I know and love. So you got Mick Fleetwood on drums, percussion. You got John McVie on the bass guitar, slap the bass. So you take their two surnames, Fleetwood and Mac from McVie, and you got Fleetwood Mac. Things are adding up now. And then you got Christine McVie on keyboards and vocals. You got Stevie Nicks on vocals and tambourine. And then you got Lindsey Buckingham on vocals and rhythm guitar. And that forms like Voltron, Fleetwood Mac. So coming off of a huge album like Rumours in 1977, Fleetwood Mac was on top of the world, right? They were dominating the charts. And Rumours is a great album, a 5 machete album in my book. I mean, Rumours is one of the highest selling albums of all time. Sold over 21 million copies as of 2025. Now that's 2 times diamond, baby. So, spring of 1978, the band heads to the studio to start working on Tusk. And while they were baking this little gem, your machete-wielding host was being baked in the oven, preparing to emerge into the world. But that's not what we're here to talk about, just a fun fact. So an interesting thing about Tusk is really there's no cohesive sound throughout the album. It's said to sound like basically 3 solo artists that compiled a compilation album and making it a complete album, as opposed to like a band working together to create a sound and keep it cohesive throughout. It's basically a Fleetwood Mac album with Lindsey Buckingham songs, Christine McVie songs, and Stevie Nicks songs. And I gotta agree with that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now the band's record company, Warner Brothers, basically told the band to go and record another Rumours-like album, right? That's what they wanted. They want hit records. That's what they want. But the band basically recorded a fuck you response to that. Now, Mick Fleetwood was quoted in 2004 saying, "How do you follow or top the best work you've ever done in your life?" That's a valid point. I mean, that's a lot of pressure and probably a reason behind the drugs, the drinking that goes behind this kind of stuff. I mean, the life of a rock star, am I right? But it was really Lindsey Buckingham who was losing his shit for this album, while Stevie Nicks and Christine McVie were the ones keeping things on track and Normal contributing to the project. Now, it's rumored that the title Tusk is actually a nickname Mick Fleetwood had for his I can't say that it's true or not, but I will say it's probably not false, just for rumor's sake, pun intended. All that aside, the members of the band were actually sleeping with each other at the time, which I would imagine would complicate things a bit, but they did manage to get it done. So Mick and Stevie had a relationship during, while Stevie and Lindsay used to be an item. And really, this picture kind of depicts whatever the hell was going on there. As a matter of fact, after Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks ended their relationship, Stevie had a relationship with Don Henley of the Eagles.
I hate the fucking Eagles, man.
As legend has it, Stevie may have had an abortion from that relationship, and even channeled that event for the song Sarah on the album. Meanwhile, Lindsey Buckingham was recording demos and tracking things in his bathroom at his home because he liked the acoustics of it, and then bringing that bathroom energy into the studio. What do you say we get out the machete and we cut this pig open? I summon the spirit of the legendary R&B singer,
D'Angelo, to deliver me my machete.
So don't judge me, but I bought this one through Amazon. I do prefer to support smaller resellers, but this one was on sale for I think $16, and you just can't beat that price. Of course, this album was made or released in October 12th of 1979. So there's been, I couldn't even tell you how many repressings and reissues of this album since then. I mean, we're damn near, we're closer to the 50th anniversary of this album than not. So just looking at the album cover out of the gate, a different approach compared to Rumours. You've got a dog picture. This is actually Ken, I believe, Kalat is how you say it, Kalat. He was a producer that worked with Fleetwood Mac on Rumours and Tusk. This is actually his dog, Scooter. So let's take a look inside. This is a double album, keep in mind. Some unique collages of pictures of members of the band. A couple pictures of dogs here. That is the same dog. That's Scooter. That's Scooter. That's Scooter. And you got Stevie Nicks, Mick Fleetwood up there. Just a kind of an interesting collage of things here. A nice band photo there. The witchy woman, Stevie Nicks herself. Let's take a look. So this is disc number 1. There's a 1 and a 2 on either side. A sleeve within a sleeve. Another good picture of the band. So something to note about this album is it was actually recorded digitally. So the band cares very deeply about their sound and quality. So this was actually one of the earliest albums to be mixed digitally. Let's take a look at that clear vinyl. Look at that. Very staticky. That's tight in there. That's what she said. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. That's going to be tough to get back in there. This was released in '79. This is a very 80s looking picture right here. I love the McVie look here. The, huh? What do you want? I don't know what to do with my hands type look. I think it's kind of cool how it's a sleeve within a sleeve. Not a lot of album credits though. Liner notes here that I like to look at. There's disc 1 and 2. Let's check out number 3 and 4 here. Good collage of various pictures, and maybe these are lyrics here. More pictures of Scooter in there. Nice picture of, I'd assume that's the Pacific Ocean. I'm no expert. There's Lindsey Buckingham. So Lindsey Buckingham was very inspired by Brian Wilson's experimental recording processes that he was doing, like after Pet Sounds, of course, which was revolutionary in recording techniques and things that you can do. So he wanted to try some of that here, and I think you can kind of hear some of that on this album. Not to the extent, of course, of like the Beach Boys, Pet Sounds especially. But so this album sold 2 million copies, according to the Recording Industry of America, which of course sounds like, how could that be considered a flop, right? But I mean, honestly, to sell that much as a double album, which wasn't common back then, so that's a lot of music to release, you know, and almost double the cost of a normal album at the time. Still an impressive achievement, right? So just going over the track listing here on this one, you got Over and Over. Now this is a song by Christine McVie, a great solid opening to the album. I'm just gonna go track by track because they deserve this. The Ledge, that's a good enough Lindsey Buckingham track, you know? It's nothing that's gonna blow you away, but it's good enough. Think About Me, another Mac track written by Christine and sung by her and Lindsey Buckingham. It's a good one. Save Me a Place, it's a decent Buckingham song. Then you got Sarah, of course, one of the all-time greatest Fleetwood Mac songs by Stevie Nicks. Of course, greatest hits material for sure. What Makes You Think You're the One, a decent Buck song. Storms, another beautiful Stevie Nicks song. That's All for Everyone, it's an okay Buck track. Ideally should have been the last song on the album if you ask me. Not that funny. I would say a forgettable track. Sisters of the Moon, I hate to say it, a forgettable Stevie Nicks track. And then on record too, starts off with Angel, another okay but mostly forgettable Stevie Nicks song. That's Enough for Me. This track is fine. Somewhat forgettable Buck track. Brown Eyes, I tend to skip this track. Never Make Me Cry. Christine McVie has a beautiful voice, but I typically skip this song. I Know I'm Not Wrong. This is a Buck song. I tend to skip this one too. Honey High, actually a beautiful Christine McVie, Stevie Nicks duet song. Beautiful Child, a great Stevie Nicks song, solid. Walk a Thin Line. So, as I said, Lindsey Buckingham was really influenced by Brian Wilson's recording techniques. This song is a pretty good example of that. You can kind of hear that experimentation in here on this song in particular. And then, of course, Tusk. So this song was recorded at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles with the University of Southern California Marching Band live. And there is a cool video that kind of documents this. I'll link it in the description. But something tells me that Lindsey Buckingham wouldn't have thought to do this without that influence or inspiration by Brian Wilson. I don't want to say for sure, but that's just my thoughts on that. And usually I'm pretty right, except for when I'm wrong. But the drum build-up in this song, Tusk, is just, it's incredible. And you can just really feel that live energy. You can almost close your eyes and envision it live. And then you got Never Forget. A good enough Christine McVie song. I would imagine being that this album came out on cassette and vinyl and probably 8-track when it first came out, that, you know, it was a little more work to skip a song. And not that this is a big skip song, but it follows the title track of the album and probably a well-known song for Fleetwood Mac fans, or at least fans of albums as an entirety, such as myself. So the question really remains is whether this album is a commercial flop. Much like multi-million-dollar movies that come out in theaters, they sometimes don't meet the budget that it took to make the movie, but then in digital release or formerly DVD release, home video release, they find a cult following, right? I think that's the case for Tusk. I mean, people wanted another Rumours, the record company wanted another Rumours, but this really holds up. You know, it's still a beautiful album today, but when you compare it to Rumours, yes, it's just not going to be as good. You know, you're never as good as your best work, but you know, it's got some gems in there, but it's also got some sleepers. I would say by today's standards, if they would have made this like a single album instead of a double album, it would have been a 4.5 machete album for me. But instead, I got to give this one 3.5 machetes. Because again, the only thing I can compare this to is Rumours, which as I said is clearly a 5 machete album. Now having said all that, this album is consistently in the top 5 of any Fleetwood Mac fans' catalog, right? But hey, thanks for checking out the video. I hope you took something away from this, learned a little something. I know I did. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you next time.